Alright, let's start painting our tulips. We have a large yellow tulip. It's kind of a closed tulip at the top. And we're going to begin using our Hansa yellow color. So I'm just stroking in. It's a nice simple shape. Okay, I want to get a good amount of yellow paint on there so that it stays moist. And this tulip has kind of a little bit of a shading at the bottom, little pinkish tint, and it has just a little section of the naphthol red light on the very side and down the center to look like a crevice. So we're going to pick up some of our naphthol red light and we'll shade down at the bottom. Pinch wipe your brush. And I just streak that down into the, pull these areas up a little bit. Streaks look good on this tulip. So see that little streakiness that we got? That's a good thing. And I'm going to lay in a bit of a crevice here. Okay, that went in pretty good. If you don't like it, you can soften a little bit on the sides. And we're going to put a little bit more going up this way and a little bit down the side. And those I'm going to soften a little bit. Just clean my brush, pinch wipe it out. You can add extender if it's too dry. Okay, just so that we have some creases going into the tulip. I'm going to add a little bit of titanium white and pull some light highlights right here on the tulip. And I want to get the top of that tulip a little bit more rounded. It's got a little bit of a flat top, so we're gonna put a little bit more yellow up there, just to round that tip a little bit. Okay, and I picked up just a speck of my quinacridone. That's an interesting name. I call it Quin for short, just to make it easier to remember. Instead of quinacridone, I'm going to just say Quin. And I'm going to pull this in nice and tight so you can see the details on this one. Okay, these are those little crevices I was talking about. And I'd like to get a little bit of pinkish tint in here with the quinacridone, Quin. And that's a more pink rather than red color tone. And we'll just lay that in. Alright, so that's a nice easy tulip. We're going to go down here to another real nice easy tulip. And this one, I think I labeled that on the, let's see, that's not the open tulip. I called it the peach tulip. Okay, so we're going to use the Quin Violet, and we're going to use a little bit of Hansa yellow. Oh, excuse me, wait a minute. I'll have to check on this. I want to make sure I get the right color. Okay. Hansa yellow, a little bit of that Quin Violet, or you can use naphthol red. Either one will make a pretty peach color. Now this makes yellow and red makes an orange. Okay, and then you add your white to it. and it will be a softer peach. Okay, I'm going to use a little of the first part without the white, and that will be my shadow color. So we'll take some of that and we'll lay in the dark without the white first. And up in the top of this one, I'm going to let that shadow color be up here. And a little bit down the side, fills that out a little. Then I'm going to take where I added the white to it, a little highlight color, and I'm going to put in the light right in here. So you've got your dark at the bottom, a little bit in the crevice, and we'll put a little light over here. Yeah, they're not too difficult to do. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of Naphthol Red Light, and I'm going to tint some red down in this area, a little bit here, and maybe a little bit up in that corner. And then I'll pinch wipe my brush on my paper towel. And I'm just softening a little bit in here. Yeah, that's nice and a little streaky. Maybe a little bit up the center. Pinch wipe. And now I'll soften it a little bit. Just don't want it to look like I placed it there. I'm streaking it. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of the titanium white, and I'm going to lighten this area here, and I'm also going to lighten the edge of this right here, and I'm going to add a little bit of warmth to that with some Hansa yellow. Hansa yellow looks so pretty on there. I'll pinch wipe my brush out. And I'll just pull those colors together a little bit. Okay, I think that one I like that. Maybe I'll put just a speck more of the dark color right in that crevice there to get a good separation in the middle of that tulip. There we go. I like that one. That's nice. All right. And we have a tulip in this section that's going to be in the pink tones. This is a pretty pink one. And on the directions I called it, see, that's the yellow tulip. Okay, that's I just called it a pink tulip, so that's easy enough to remember. I'm going to use my quinacridone violet, the quin violet again, and I'm going to lay in my dark tone at the bottom, a little bit up the side. I'm going to put some in the center. There's some separations here. I'm going to add a little bit here, this petal, and we need this up in the back, up behind these. We're going to add light to this, but right now we're adding our darks. Dark shadows in there. And a little bit in front of this. I kind of go right in front of the pattern lines to lay the colors in. Now I'm going to take a little bit of titanium white, and it looks like I'm running out, so I'm just going to put a little bit more white out on my palette. I just keep little puddles of each color right at the top of my palette. And then I use the bottom portion of the palette for my mixing and loading. But my titanium white just ran out. Okay. There we go. Alright, so we're going to work from the back of the tulip forward. So the top back, I'm going to lay in some white on the top of that petal. And I'm going to also lay some white in up in the back here on this. So all across this back, I just laid in a bit of white paint. Now I need to pinch white my brush out. Get all that white paint in off of my brush so that I can... Alright, now I've got a clean brush. Now what we need to do is intermingle those colors. So I'm going to take the brush flat and I'm going to pull them in the direction that they're growing. And they're growing down into the center of the petal. This is also happening down in the back here. So we will pull this. That one started to dry. I need to get a little bit more. If it dries because I was talking too much, I put a little bit more Quin. And if the white dried, you can always touch a little bit more white. And then when I pull it, there we go. Now we've got the creamy pink streaks. That looks so nice. And we're pulling that down in. Okay, that's the back of our tulip. And that looks very nice. Now we're going to work on these two front petals. And again, like I said, the paint is starting to dry. There we go. So we're going to put thicker paint right here. These two petals are where we're going to work next. And we're going to pick up a little bit of white. And to the top edge, this one, you never know what it's going to look like when you're finished. We just hope it looks pretty. And as each one comes out differently, we're going to streak this down and in. I think I'd like a little bit more white. There we go. That one's nice. And now we're going to do this top one here. Pulling the petals. Okay. So now you have all the back petals, this secondary row. Now we have a couple of front petals. So I am going to refresh. We are going to refresh the Quin Violet. Get that nice and creamy. Because actually it started to dry a little bit, and I don't want it to dry yet. We need to pull the colors together. Alright, so you can just start one row at a time, and then it won't dry. I jumped ahead and did a little bit too much. Alright, now this one, we're going to do this front row. That you can see that's going to take shape. That'll be the front petal. And this one also will be another front petal. So let's go over here and we're going to start pulling. Now you want to pull these the direction you want them to grow. And I think I could even have a little bit more up here. Sometimes there's not enough paint deposited to pull all the way down. Yes, I can see that wasn't quite enough paint. I mean, it's pretty, and you can leave it, but if you wanted to accent just a little bit more, which I would like a little bit more right here, You can lay it in again. And let's try that one more time. I want this to be an accent right there. Okay. Now we'll go back over to this one. And pull down this way, curving around, following the contour shape of the flower. And if it's not enough to your liking and you want it a little brighter, I'm going to leave the back petal back there a little quieter, and I wanted this one to be a little bit perkier. But you can see how pretty these little petals will be. Now each time you do it, it's going to come out with different streaks, which makes it fun. Okay, so that's our pink tulip, and it's definitely pink. Now I did put a little bit, I like to bring all of my colors around. I did take a little Hansa yellow and just a speck of white, and I wanted to put a little tiny tint of some yellow on this one, which makes it look pretty. Put a little bit, oh that's a lot, a little bit here. Ooh, I like that, that was a pretty streak. And I'll put a little bit here. Nice. Alright, so now that's how I streaked a little bit of the yellow into the flower, so you can warm a couple areas. Alright, now we will go on to our rear petal, which is right back here. That's going to be our purple petals. This is a pretty purple tulip. I wanted some dark right behind our focal point, which is our really bright yellow. So we need a good dark not only here and underneath, but we need a good dark here. So that really makes that yellow stand out beautifully and gives it a really defined. So we're going to take our Quin Violet and a little bit of ultramarine blue. Mix those two, red and blue do make purple. Mix those two together and we're going to nice deep color. Now this is a good shadow color, but I also wanted it to be a little lighter. So after I've mixed the dark, I'll take just a little bit of white, and you can see that'll make a real pretty highlight color. So we'll work between the dark, make a medium, and we have some light. All right. Now this one, I wanted to tint the center with pink. I'll show you that on camera. See, there's just a little bit of pink up in the throat of this tulip. So I'm going to take my Quin Violet, I'm adding a little bit of white to it, and I'm going to stroke in the back area of this tulip. Now we won't do the front because we saw how quickly it dried. We'll start with just a simple pink area up in here. I want to put red violet down in the base so it's good and dark. And I'm streaking and pulling some color upwards. Let's see if I can zoom in one more time. Whoops, that's very fast. I'm never ready for that. Okay, put some of the dark down in here. And then when we pull the highlight up on the tips, taking a little white, I'm going to go up in here and we'll pull some of these lights down into the tulip. There we go. Wipe your brush in between, or you carry the dark that you pick up back to the top, and that doesn't help you get a highlight. So you pull the stroke, wipe your brush, and then pull again. And then you're able to get some nice highlights. I'm going to get one more over this side. That's nice. Oh, I like that little dark that deposited up there. That was because my brush touched down here. But I'm going to leave it because I think that's fine. All right, now I'm going to go in with a little bit more of my Quin Violet and White. And we will lay in a little bit of pink at the top portion again. This is the front petals. And we'll leave the shadow area alone. We're not going to put paint on that. We're going to go back to our very darkest mix. And I want to make sure that's a bluish purple. There we go. And we're going to bring the dark up into the pink. Okay, and there was little separations of petals. We'll try to find them, keeping the dark down here, just along that edge of that yellow tulip. We're going to have our darks. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush out, pinch wipe. I'm going to put a little extender in and pinch it again because I want to get a lot of that dark out. And now I'm going to pull with my, this is lavender. It's the purple mix with a little white in it. I'm lightening the tulip a bit. And I'll come back and I'll put some whites in too. But first of all, I'm just going in with that dark purple mix with white. And if you bring it up into the dark area, you'll be able to see your strokes coming through. And a little bit up on this side. Now I've lost a little of my dark, so I'm going to go back with a little red violet. And I'm going to make sure I get a dark area. I want this to be a little bit more open tulip. Now we have to take our white. Now we're going to put the highlight. Oh wait, I have one little shadow here. I broke this one up. Just a section there. Alright, and now we'll take the white and we're going to highlight the top edges around pulling the streaks. Over the colors you've put in. All right, let's pull this out just a little bit. Okay, I like that one. All right, that's a pretty shape. This is a little bit square here. I'm going to pull this stroke up just a little higher to round that bowl in there just a little bit. It appeared to me to be just a touch square, flat right across there. So I just stroked it one more time. Okay, now we have our open yellow tulip. This is our focal point. And yellow is a transparent color, but we're going to try to get a good amount. Sorry about that. My dog always barks when people walk down the street, truck goes by, that he likes to talk to everybody. We're going to put a good amount of yellow in. Now, one nice thing about the yellow is you can still see your pattern line there, so you won't lose it, which I love that. That makes it go much faster. Okay, so I've gotten my yellow completely across my tulip. And now I'm going to take some of my yellow oxide, which is a little bit golden yellow, and I'm going to start finding some of my petals with a little shadow. I'm going to lay the color in first, and then I'll pull the colors together. This one comes all the way down. I'm going to reserve the middle for tints of some pretty burnished red color in there. Go around this petal and around this petal. And we have a little bit up here we need to. Okay, now I've put all of my shadow color on those pattern lines. And I'm going to go in now, and I'm going to just soften a little bit, pull the color a little bit out into the yellow, just so that it has a little bit softer edge. Not much. You don't have to do a lot of blending on that. Just soften it a little bit down here. This one really gets lit up when you put your highlights in. We're going to take some bright naphthol red and we're going to put in the center. Now I like to turn my piece upside down because I like to pull the throat this way and streak it up into the flower. So I get some pretty red strokes. I think that looks nice. Sometimes I get more than I like. I'll come back to them later. I get some down in here, a little bit here, but mainly I wanted it down into the throats. Now if I don't get enough, I can always put more in, but I like to streak it up into the flower. I think that gives a really pretty color, and we can always add a little bit of shading if we need it later. Okay, now I'm going to take my white, and we're going to start one petal at a time. So we'll start in the back again, and we're going to lay our white in and pull the white down into the yellow. We can put a little bit more on that one. At any point when you get this done, you look at it and you say, oh gee, it's not very bright. You can always add a little bit more. So this is the top edge of this one, and a little bit down the side. I'm going to wipe my brush out, and I'm going to pull this down into the flower. Trying not to do too many strokes. It flattens the flower. While I was doing the other one, I felt it was getting flat. So you don't want to do that. Little shadow. All right, taking a little bit more white. I'm going to pull that in. That's good. And these petals bend and twist different directions, so if you don't get exactly what I have, that's fine too. Okay, we'll pull a little bit of this in. Now that one seemed to not be as bright. I'm going to just add a little bit more of a touch on that tip. Okay, this one, you can use a liner, or I just use the tip of my brush. But if you cannot get a tiny thin line, which you want to get here, that edge needs to be a little bit fine. You can always apply it with your round brush like this. You're just depositing paint. But you see how that made kind of a line area? Well, we're going to diffuse that. We're going to pull this down into the flower. And little too white, that edge. And then in here, we need to pull this light color down here. This could be a little bit deeper color. So we're going to apply our red tone. Now I mix a little bit of red violet into that red. And it just deepens the red value ever so slightly right down in that bottom area of the tulip where it's going to connect to the stem. I've added just a little bit more of the deep value red, and that's naphthol red and a little bit of red violet. Okay, now that looks nice. That's just a little catching a little bit of light here. But you can see the petal folding around the tulip. Okay, we need a little bit of light on this. And this one I kind of gave it a bumpy edge, so it's a little bit ruffly. And you can do that too. And I'm going to clean my brush out with a little extender because I'm ending up with not getting my white. And I would like some white right here. It gets too many colors in the brush and then you're not going to get nice highlights. Okay, now I'm not going to touch that too much more. That's nice. And one more speck of white right here. And I'm going to pull this down in that direction so it winds down to the base where it connects to the stem. And we're going to put just a little bit of white on this corner. And I'll pull that down. A little bit more. Okay. Now this particular flower has some sepals in it, little sepals inside of the plant. And I put them in with black. And I just picked up a little bit of black paint. And you're going to just stroke in just a little bit. Like so. And that's all we need to do to that. Okay, well that is our tulips. And we're going to sign off here. And I hope you have a wonderful spring. And if you have any questions, any comments, I'd love to see your tulips and how they turn out. If you'd please send me emails with your photos of what you've been doing, I'd really love to see it. So take care, and I'll see you on the next one.